So I leave it to you, Mark. Yes, what is going to happen? Tell us.
Cheers, Anca. So welcome to the latest in the Live at Heart conference strands. And today, as Anca said, we're going to discuss a subject that we don't seem to be able to escape from just at this moment. But today we're also going to add a side dish of man-made confusion in adding Brexit to the post-COVID story. So the live music industry in a post-COVID, post-Brexit world. And essentially we want to be looking at how this double whammy is going to impact on emerging artists and their ability to break in international markets. So joining me today are panelists from across Europe to give us an insight into their experiences. So my name is Mark Bounds from TIR Music. I work with Talent Coach, which is a Swedish artist development organisation based in Kalmarland in the southeast of Sweden. And with me today, I have Anca, Sara, Andy, Paul, and Vidas. Time is at a premium today for us because trying to discuss two of the biggest topics in economic impact in 45 minutes may be somewhat of a challenge. So if I could, I'll ask you to briefly introduce yourself and your organisation and give us a brief insight into current COVID live music restrictions in your territory and how they're affecting your local live industry. So Anca, could I start with you, please?
Hi, I'm Anca Lupes. I'm coming from Romanian Artists Worldwide Association, which is the organizer of the Mastering the Music Business Conference and Showcase Festival here in Bucharest, Romania. We had to cancel this edition of Mastering the Music Business, which was due in March, because March 16, a date important for me also, was the date when Romania got into lockdown. But luckily we could organize an online edition of the conference at the end of July. So we counted the 5th edition. It was supposed to be really nice and big in a live in-person format, but well, we did it online and it turned out really well. And I think it's very important to have this online conferences, even if it's not the same thing as in-person event, because everybody needs now to learn what's happening in other territories, maybe get new ideas about what they should do in their own country with their own business. So I think keep on doing this online conferences is really important.
Absolutely. And Sara, what's the situation in Sweden at the moment with regards to the COVID restrictions in the live industry?
Well, we are just we have had the restriction of maximum 50 people at events for quite some time now, and which was of course very severe. The constant lobbying we have here is how come it's the same amount, whether it's in a back garden or whether it's an arena. But it's been that, and a lot of people have adapted and have had no choice because we do as we're told, even if it's not the law. But this restriction with maximum 50 actually was enforced. And now we are all waiting for 7th of September. That's on Monday, when we are hoping it will be put through. They have already mentioned it in press conferences from government and from the Ministry of Enterprise, and are lobbying together with the Department of Culture that it's expected to be lifted to 500 on Monday. And then we are continuing the lobbying on how come the same amount, because of course there could be smaller venues that shouldn't have more than 49, and then we have the big arenas lobbying for, just like everywhere else, why can't we have maybe 10% of capacity? That's the situation around live right now.
And Vidas, I'll go to you because I think your experience has been somewhat different from most of ours, hasn't it, with regards to live events over the summer period?
Hello, everyone. My name is Vidas Tatskevicius. I'm a founder and director of Lithuanian Music Business Association. I'm also running my own record label and concert agency. And our association is the organizing of music conference and showcase festival What's Next in Music, which will happen next week, but we'll come to that a bit later. And situation in Lithuania was that actually we had drive-in concerts, a lot of them happening in April and May. Since June, we had small live events up to 100 and up to 300 people, and July and August was actually where those months were full of concerts, and the amount of people that were allowed to attend the concerts were up to 1,000, and we expected all the restrictions to be lifted off by September 1st, but that didn't happen because our COVID rates started to grow again a bit, and Lithuania since today will be probably also included into the list of countries that you come from and you have to take quarantine because our rates are 16.1. Right now, that makes it difficult to have delegates in our conference next week, but that's the life we're having right now. And the regulations are that all the people in the concert should be with masks. Distance between them should be 1 meter, and organizer of the concert should collect contact data of people attending the concert in order to track them if coronavirus situation happens in the concert. If organizer fails to do that, so he's maximum allowed to have 300 people in the event.
Cool, thanks, Vidas. Andy, how about in the UK, or especially interesting for you because like Wales having slightly different viewpoint to the wider UK?
Yes, hello everyone. My name's Andy Jones, and I'm one of the co-founders and the music booker for the Focus Wales Showcase Festival that ordinarily takes place each May in North Wales in the UK. Alongside the annual Showcase Festival and conference that we deliver, we also act as the export office for new music from Wales, delivering showcases for Welsh artists across North America, Europe and Asia to date, with some more projects in the works when hopefully we get back to some kind of normality. The current state of play in Wales right now essentially is that there are no performances allowed. Pubs and restaurants have reopened, and with that some of our venues have sort of remodeled how they sort of go about their business and looked at altering the interior of the venues so that they can operate more so as pubs during this phase where they can't deliver performances. But the Welsh government have been pretty well engaged with the creative sector, I have to say, throughout the whole pandemic. Weekly meetings, and right now Focus Wales, alongside a handful of other organisations in Wales, are working with Welsh Government to develop a strategy, a kind of roadmap for the live sector, which will be sort of issued out in the next few weeks. It's still, as I say, in that sort of development phase, but hopefully we'll see a really sensible plan that all the venues and promoters can work to, published, as I say, in the next couple of weeks.
Paul, how's things in Luxembourg?
Yep. Well, Luxembourg, as you know, is extremely small. Just to add, your premise of a post-COVID, post-Brexit world sounds like something that Denis Villeneuve might be interested in filming, but we'll get to that, I guess. But yeah, hi, I'm Paul from Luxembourg. I work at a venue called the Rockhal, so I'm a booker, promoter there, in-house promoter, and we also run the Sonic Visions Festival, held in November each year, which is an emerging acts festival. Currently in Luxembourg, restrictions are that events have to be all seated with social distancing measures in place. However, if you have groups of people, like in a restaurant, if you have a group of 10 people together, they can be sat together, and then they would be 1.5 or 2 meters away from the next group of people, but all seated. And then when you're moving around, you have to be wearing masks, which makes things, well, very, very complicated for a lot of not just us, but also restaurants, cafes, and all that.
And is there any sign of those restrictions shifting in any time soon?
I would hope so. I mean, in my head, the sort of way forward is that with the ease of restrictions, smaller capacity places would be the first ones to be able to sort of slowly open up and do things. I would hope that before the end of the year, that would ease up a bit more. Initially, it was also until 1st of September, but that has been extended for now. And we're going on I guess, a day-by-day sort of basis. That might change next week. It might change in 3 weeks' time. So it's really hard to say at this point.
Okay, that's interesting because like the uncertainty. So the next question that I kind of like to pose to you all, and especially I might start with Vidas because it sounds like Vidas is having the day of it today. So how has the pandemic affected your plans for your events in 2020, i.e. how in the way that Live at Heart is now online and we're all sitting in our lounge rooms or our offices rather than in Örebro. And how are you looking forward to move forward in 2021? And how are you having to mitigate against the potential unknowns in the same way, Vidas, that you said about, with regards to the R rate changing? So can we kick off with you, Vidas, to kind of like say just how you're having to mitigate those daily changes?
Of course, the most difficult time was in March when the quarantine started in our country. The same day, it was 16th of March, happened in Lithuania. So at that time, all the live concert activities just were stopped, and also different agencies, including my company, for the next like 2 or 3 weeks, we were doing nothing else than just canceling or postponing shows. So we canceled or postponed 65 shows, and the other companies also have like very, very big amount of shows canceled or postponed. Summer festivals, they waited till the last moment actually, but in May, June, they started to postpone festivals to the next year. Basically, all the ticket sales for the events that are happening in autumn or during the summer, since March 16th, were stopped as well. So it was nothing else to do than just to start to do something new. So that then drive-in series started, and actually it was the really joyful experience, a hope for the industry that something can happen during this pandemic. And but also we were very glad that it lasted for more than 1 month, like 1 month and a half, because when in June we were allowed to organize small live events, so it was the real joy and real fresh breath of air. So looking forward, so at the moment we don't know what to expect. We are having a lot of concerts in September, but no one's having big plans for the rest of the year and maybe for the beginning of the next year. International concerts are not happening, or very, very small ones, and just people from few countries can come to Lithuania without going to the self-isolation, which allows to play the concert, because if you come to country and you have to spend 14 days, so that kills all possible tour schedule. What was really good that government agreed on the model that we suggested, that actually people they are not allowed to return the tickets until actually 30 days after the end of quarantine. There is a time frame for organizer to announce the new date of the concert. When the new date is announced, if the date is not suitable for ticket holder, he should contact organizer. And then first of all, organizer has right to suggest the voucher for the same amount of money for that ticket holder. If this doesn't work, then the money for the ticket are returned. But basically, not that many people return tickets, like, I know, 10-15% of ticket buyers only return the tickets.
That's cool. So people are still supporting the live industry in that sense as well, rather than demanding their money back. That's
yes.
To hear. And Anca, how are things in Romania? Because obviously you just said that you had to take your online.
Well, starting with the beginning of June, outdoor events were allowed with a maximum of 500 people, provided that the space was big enough to hold this number of people with a distancing of 1.5 meters between them, and groups or 3 or maybe maximum 4 people were allowed to stay closer. And now since September 1st, indoor venues are allowed to organize events, but with the same maximum amount of 500 people, provided again that the distancing can be held between people, and only if in their respective cities or areas the incidence of COVID infections is less than 1.5 for 1,000 people, 1,000 inhabitants. So it's a little bit tricky because you cannot plan ahead. I mean, 14 days, what happens if 3 days before an outbreak happens, you know, then you have to cancel everything. But well, people are trying to deal with these new regulations that were issued like 3 days ago, and we'll see what happens. Anyway, it's a good moment for, as we were discussing yesterday, it's a good moment for small and medium acts to get out there and play, because they can do these shows with small amounts of people. Big shows are not sustainable with a few hundred people. The cost will never be covered, especially now when the costs are growing with all these safety measures that each promoter has to take. So yeah, we'll see what happens. For the next year, I guess the thing we are going to plan for our conference will be a mixed scenario, live and online. I mean, if it's possible, we would love to have all the speakers live in person at the conference, but if not, we will only have the Romanians and the ones that can travel, and the other ones we will have online on big screens or somehow like this. I think it's the best way to do it. I mean, to plan it. Because our conference will be is due to be in March again.
Cool. And Andy, you obviously have lived through the having to postpone this year's live event and moved it back. And tell us about how you kind of came to that conclusion with regards to what you've ended up on for 2021 for Focus.
Yeah. Well, I guess as an instrument, I did a lot of traveling at the very start of the year. So January through to pretty much the 1st of March, I went everywhere, and increasingly with each trip that I made, the conversations were more serious about, that we're going to have to cancel our events that are coming up. Starting with Eurosonic, where it was a topic of discussion. Within a couple of weeks at Celtic Connections, it was a bit more serious. Then I went to an event in Japan, in Okinawa actually specifically, and things were very serious at this point. This was mid-February, I think it was. And it really contrasted with how we were discussing it in the UK. Like it was like we were pretending it wasn't a thing at that point in the UK, by comparison to how seriously it was being taken in Japan. Then I went to an event in Russia, where from Japan pretty much straight to there, and then in Russia it was like it wasn't a thing, but that was the narrative that was out, in the media in Russia. It was like, no, we don't have this problem, sort of thing. But lo and behold, I landed then, I think it was 1st of March, and it was within a few days South by cancelled. Now we were taking 7 bands from Wales to South by Southwest, so I spent a few days untangling that, and obviously throughout that whole process, that sort of puts a big spotlight on the problem that coronavirus is bringing to the table for the music industry. So within a few days of, doing our best to untangle the problems of cancelling South by in terms of helping artists with flights and hotels that they'd booked and all of those things, and our own flights and hotels, we realised that there was very little hope that we'd be able to deliver Focus Wales in what at that point was just a couple of months away. It just seemed, highly unlikely that this thing was going to be fixed, obviously at the time, it's easy to say with hindsight, I guess, but at the time, nobody kind of had a clear idea of how long this thing would last, except for, you know, a chap we work with who's, you know, a consultant to the organization, helps us with, you know, if we're going for a big government bid, you know, he's a guy we'll consult with on how to put it together and whatnot. So it's somebody we trust. He's a retired doctor. And, you know, he at that point was geeking out on all the doctors' forums, and he was like, guys, you've got to cancel this. They've got to lock down for at least 3 months, and there's no guarantees with that. So he was correct about the initial phase and what was coming. So we cancelled, gave us some sort of space to assess things. And then, but again, by the time we got to June, you know, what we'd done is that we kicked our event on to October. We'd salvaged 99% of the program. And by the time we got to June, we realized that it was going to be impossible to deliver the event in what would have been just like 4 weeks from now. And again, it was a really wise move, because there'd be no way that we could deliver that event in the UK at that point. So at that point, what we realized, having been involved in, you know, meetings with Welsh government on a pretty regular basis, we realized, you know, how this was developing on a sort of policy level, and that we were looking at a phased return to the live sector, and you know, for the live sector, and that there would be a gradual easing of the controls, but that could take months and months. And, you know, looking at next May, we just realized it would be plausible that we'd kind of be the guinea pigs if we went with May 2021. So we decided to move our event furthest from harm as we see it, and put ourselves in the autumn next year. So we're going to be early October 2021. And yeah, you know, it's hard to be confident because there are still so many unknowns. But as I say, we feel that gives us the best chance of being able to deliver the event as close as how we would like to, you know, because I just don't think social distancing at shows is a thing that can work. There have been a few pilot events in the UK. Financially, it's not viable, but just in terms of the whole experience for people and artists, it just doesn't work. I'm not convinced it works anyway. So we're going with October. Hopefully at that point, what social restrictions, social distancing restrictions, limitations are in place are minimal. But that's me being optimistic. We'll just have to see, I guess, how things progress.
But to mirror what Anca said earlier, you are having a degree of hybrid, aren't you? You're introducing some kind of digital platform, yeah, for online focus,
Yes.
focus now, aren't you?
Well, yeah. So what we've done in the meantime, I mean, the whole spirit of Focus Wales is to provide this platform for, and you know, in the first instance, for talent coming through in Wales to the music industry from across the globe. We've developed over 10 years into an international festival with lots of international bands coming in also, but primarily it's to help the emerging new waves of artists coming through each year. So, you know, we just said to ourselves in June when we were kicking the festival on again, we were like, well, what can we look at in the meantime? Is there something that we can do that would make ourselves useful to our music community? So we thought, well, we could do an industry connector. We could look at all the things that we could do online, and you know, the more we explored it, the more we realized there's actually quite a lot we can do online. You know, we can bring people together who are experts in monetizing, you know, YouTube accounts, and sync experts, and you know, all the things beyond live that are, you know, that artists can be looking at right now. And yeah, I'm really excited by what we've been able to put together for it. Out of Focus will be happening over the 21st and 25th of September. So just in a few weeks' time. And yeah, we've, as I say, it's a lot of practical conversations focusing on key areas. We've got a panel about well-being. We've got panels with bookers, with agents. Yeah, we're covering quite a lot really. And we've also got Dave Stewart from the Eurythmics in conversation with the guys from Tract, talking about how that technology can offer artists the opportunity to collaborate internationally, which I think is quite an interesting opportunity right now, considering we're all stuck at home for a lot of the time.
Absolutely, and that's almost like a perfect segue into my next question. So, are real life events and virtual events mutually exclusive now? Or are we looking at a reframing of the live experience as we know it? And if so, what technologies are you looking at working with, and what technologies are you excited that bring a good experience to both the consumer, but also to the artist as well, to allow them to find global audiences in a way that not having access to live performances at your festivals is doing now? So for that, Sara, can I ask you to kind of lead, because obviously Stockholm Music City is a music and tech hub, so presumably a lot of your teams have kind of like really dug into how we can answer that question.
Yes, not only dug into, but already have a lot of, we were amazed at how many solutions are already there that have not been used. As some of you may know, we've had a very successful hackathon that we we initiated together with some of you here and most of Europe. And it became a huge success of 450 teams entirely working on hacking online monetization. Apart from, we realized very quickly, we launched this in March, that we needed to map what was already existing as well. So we actually included a fast track since there were companies already owning their own platform. And of course, the issue we wanted to stay away from is that everything becomes YouTube for free, again, putting the artist in a situation where they provide, well, creators providing a lot of entertainment and using the big commercial platforms, YouTube, of course, without even having any type of monetization. So basically, to make a very long story shorter, there are so many companies that have solutions for this. So now it's just, how do we spread this? How do we adapt? I agree with what Andy and several of you, of course, are saying. We all feel nothing can replace live at this stage, at least for a long time. We will still want live. But to go back to your initial part, is it one or the other? I absolutely think that this is a change that will last. I think the advantages we are seeing are things like, look at Tomorrowland, where artists who couldn't normally perform were part of the event. And I really, really hope that in real life events we'll be able to have these platforms as a complement, and specifically for monetization. Because if you can sell 1 million extra tickets for 10 euros each, of course, needless to say, that's fantastic. Hope that answers some of your questions, but I'm happy to share some of these companies. We have companies like Void, VOYD, not to be mistaken together with a bike, but they are a fantastic platform where you already can monetize. They are still at a startup, early stage startup, but they are already there and have a platform. You can put in your event, you can add free passes, you can do everything. And of course, this is good both for organizers and an artist. Then we have amazing, what you also were talking about, I think it was Andy, with ELK, the Mind Music Labs that started in Sweden. It's amazing that they're, I don't know if any of you have, my fellow panelists have seen what they are doing, but you really cannot believe that you are co-creating in this way. Same with a company called Soundation. I can go on and on, as you know, Mark. It's just, as you hear, I have a very positive view on technology, and I have a huge heart and believe in the real life experience. I've myself been on stage. Nothing beats the contact with the audience both ways, but it's such a great compliment that I feel we should have implemented a long time ago. That's my view.
Absolutely. And Paul, from a promoter perspective, essentially, but then also from the promoter of a showcase festival, do you see the hybrid model as the future, realistically, the realistic future that you're facing? And if so, or if not, how accessible do you find these technologies to the emerging artists that we're all looking to kind of help promote at the moment?
Yeah, I totally believe in it has to be complementary. And to some extent, people that will go to a live show, it exists already. For example, we have some artists that will play and then the show will be recorded and then they can buy a recording of the show, you know, in a smaller extent, an audio recording of the show. I think this will extend at some point to maybe almost like film production crews going on tour with certain bands that will be able to essentially film that evening that the audience experienced that night, which they can sell on to that audience, and also make available online to people who would have liked to go to see a show if a show was sold out, for example. And I truly think that these technologies are very important to also document what the live experience is, especially in times like these, so that we can also have a strong position towards government and legislation to say that, look, these events, this live experience is, well, for me, it's fundamental to my life, but it's very important, not only job-wise, economics-wise, but to the happiness of people, I think, and being able to see these things. And if people are not able to see what these things are, I think you're losing out to some extent. And we're seeing this now because nothing is really happening. I'm not saying we have to bring back live concert DVDs because most people buy them, might watch them once, if at all. But I believe it's an important step that will complement and also generate additional revenue and more business and new businesses ultimately. And it's a change that we have to take and, you know, go full steam ahead, I guess. But it won't replace the experience. It'll be complementary.
Absolutely. So it's, again, very much the same view that we've had to take to a lot of technologies, that we learn to work with it and treat it as our best friend rather than treating it as the monster that's coming over the hill, I guess. And Anca, with regards to Romania, how are you integrating new tech into your live experiences? And again, to kind of like look at how accessible to emerging artists you feel that technology is, and whether we are yet able to cut through the noise using tech for an emerging artist in the same way that a mid to large artist might be able to utilize it.
Well, even if I also agree with everybody else that online should complement live in whichever form it will come in the future, I also think that online has to bring something extra, not just show people what's happening in the venue, because being at home or wherever, you cannot have the same feeling. So tech should be online, should bring something extra to the people accessing it. In Romania, for example, really quick after the lockdown, one of the the leading ticketing platform has launched a video platform that you could use for online shows and also for monetizing the online show, because as Sara said, okay, the showing online is it's okay, but then you have to monetize it. You cannot keep doing it for free because it will harm the business in the end. I mean, at the beginning, it helped artists to be close to their audiences, but if you keep doing it for free, then the audience might not be that interested in paying to come to see the shows or to watch the online shows. So we need to be very careful on that side.
Promotion doesn't pay the mortgage, does it?
Exactly. I mean, okay, you can promote yourself at some point, but you don't have to exaggerate it, because otherwise you're gonna fall on the other side and it's not very sustainable.
I'm going to jump in there actually, because the word unsustainable leads us nicely onto the second man-made confusion that we're all facing at the moment. Is a case of Brexit on top of a COVID experience as well. So obviously two of us on this panel are kind of sitting here saying, I'm sorry, don't blame us, it wasn't our fault, but unfortunately that's not going to cut any ice. So how are you all working with the uncertainty of how reciprocal touring might work given the uncertainty of any potential trade deal. Yeah. So what additional factors and costs are you having to consider with regards to planning your events for next year, both with regards to whether you want UK talent on your stages, and similarly whether you see UK stages, yeah, as a platform that you expect your artists to be working towards next year? And rather than actually start with the UK perspective, I'm actually going to go the other way around if I can. So Vidas, what's your thoughts with regards to how, yeah, this Brexit scenario is going to impact both Lithuanian artists into the UK, and then similarly UK artists coming out to play your festival stages?
Yeah, I think at the moment the main problem is coronavirus, and it's not that big. Brexit is not that problematic thing, and I think the deal between UK and Europe, when it will be finalized and all the agreements will be made, I think it should happen by 1st of January. Then we will know for sure what new obstacles will appear, but I don't think it will be very problematic for the bands who see UK as their market. So it's not the main problem to go to play concerts, to make tours. I don't think it will be very problematic to have UK acts playing in Europe, and in my case in Lithuania. But what did happen actually, for quite a long time, Lithuania had a lot of people going abroad to work, to study. We had quite a lot of immigrants going to UK, and this year actually the statistics shows that more people return than leave the country. So this might be direct impact of Brexit. So we might have a lot of people watching concerts in Lithuania when they came back.
That's really interesting. So Andy, can I get a UK perspective, because obviously you're going to be impacted in the additional costs of potentially, I have to add, yeah, having international artists playing at your festival, and similarly as the export agency for Wales, yeah, the challenges that you might potentially, yeah, face with Brexit on top of a post-COVID, yeah.
Well, we won't pick up that cost as our event. I mean, we've had experience for years of artists coming in from elsewhere in the world, whether it's from Africa or South America or Asia, and you know, like coming in for Focus Wales is fine. We're a government-supported industry showcase event with a conference component, which means you can come and showcase at Focus Wales without the need for a Tier 5 work visa. It only becomes complicated if then you want to go and play a couple of pub shows in Liverpool and Manchester because you've heard about Liverpool and Manchester and you want to go and play in those places. Well, that's going to be an extra £244 per musician if you want to do that. Now, on a personal level, as I say, on a personal level, I don't think it will impact Focus Wales, because I think the desire to sort of access the UK music market will still be there. And we have 5,000 artist applications each year. It's a strong desire to get to our event, but equally on a personal level, I think it's really disappointing for the wider UK that we're not going to have these. There will be artists who would have stuck around and toured for a couple of weeks each year around our event, around the Great Escape, around Liverpool Sound City, and they probably won't do that now because of these prohibitive costs. And I think, in terms of the cultural impact was huge and is huge. And I think we will miss that, having really exciting international artists come in to these shows enriches our lives. It brings something else to the table. And it's really sad that, many of those artists might decide not to do that in the future. But hopefully when we really do get the detail of how it will work, coming to the UK and equally going from the UK into Europe to tour, maybe we can, and I alluded to this in our call yesterday, that perhaps we can have some kind of more straightforward process, such as how it works in Canada. If you want to go and tour in Canada, You know, it's basically like, so long as you don't want to stick around more than 6 months, you know, you can go and tour there. It's, the paperwork is minimal, the costs are minimal. So I'm really hoping there can be a common sense approach taken to it. Because culturally, as I say, there will be a negative impact, and economically there'll be a negative impact too, because ultimately I think across the year you'll see thousands less musicians sticking around for those couple of weeks where they're staying in hotels and eating in the restaurants. So I think, you know, a sensible conversation needs to be had, and I really, really hope it does happen.
Absolutely. So it seems from what we're saying today is that like we're all fairly confident that the industry can keep leveraging governments to kind of saying we can find solutions. Yeah, we can find, yeah, at the end of the day, you're event organisers, you're the experts in putting events on. So you can inform the government on what you can do safely, because you don't take risks. That's, yeah, you don't take risks with people's health. And similarly with the talent as well, it looks like we will hopefully find ways of ensuring that international talent can still cross those borders. Obviously in Europe you can travel, yeah, as freely as you like, and I guess it's down to the UK to kind of industry to work with the European industry to work out how we can do it. So just to wrap up, because I know we're running very short on time.
Yeah, sorry. It
With
has
regards to booking talent for next year for your festivals, can you all briefly just kind of give a quick tip to any artist who is watching us now on how they should make contact for you, and what would be the one thing that would impress on you to book an unknown artist to you who you haven't been able to see live and book them for your festival next year? So can I start with you, Anca, and I'll run around very quickly if I can.
Yeah, well, exactly for the next year, we kept the same lineup as this year because our conference was and Showcase Festival was canceled 1 week before. So all the artists coming from abroad were, you know, booked flights and whatever. So we felt we owe to them to keep them in the lineup for next year. Obviously, if everybody wants to come and if it's going to be possible. But basically, for artists wanting to come to Bucharest and play the Mastering the Music Business Showcase Festival, we are looking obviously to the music and to the live performances. And even if there were no conditions this year to have live performances, maybe they could, you know, just shoot something at their rehearsal space or wherever, you know, just do a live video, really good in sound and image, so we can be able to assess if we want you or not in our showcase. And of course, as always, it counts a lot, the online presence, you know, Facebook, YouTube, everything that shows us that you're an artist export ready.
The usual
really,
data.
Yeah, really preoccupied on growing your career.
Paul, what are you looking for to see from artists who you want to book for next year?
For me, it still comes down to creativity and making solid, good music. It should be well produced, of course, and you know, videos or interesting videos that go along with it. It doesn't necessarily have to be live videos, but I've discovered some incredible acts across Europe based on through different platforms that I wouldn't have known before, that make incredible music and have great visuals and music to go with it. And without having to see them live, I want to see them live because of all these other elements, and they're still really important to me, and I think they still will be for the next or the rest of my career, I hope.
Excellent, cheers. Vidas, what is it that you would say to your band? Do this and you'll probably get booked to come and play in Lithuania.
So we select bands from INES program, and also it's possible to send the application on our website. All the information is on Facebook. What's Next in Music conference. It's happening every year in September. So next week we're having this conference. What we receive usually and what we evaluate is the video links. So good video always helps. Professional attitude, management, and wow factor is is the thing that we're looking for. Basically, we don't have a lot of bands. We try to choose usually around like between 20-30 bands, and those bands who make you say wow. So those bands definitely are part of our program.
I see you nodding, Andy, at the same time as I see Orca scowling. So
Yeah, we have to, sorry, but we have to end. We have other seminars after this. And but thank you, everybody, for being a part of Live at Heart. And thank you for everything you taught us, and all your thoughts about the future and what's happening now. And I hope to see you all in person next year.
And
some way or another.
Orca, is this available after the fact as well, so people can go back and check all the panelists, so they can contact the panelists direct? Yeah.
Yes.
Excellent. And I hope
it will be available
to be contacted direct
in an hour or something. It will be available there.
All good. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming along on a Friday afternoon. Sorry that we had to try and cram so much into such a short space, but until we meet again in a live venue with a beer in our hand, yeah, shouting in each other's ear again, and all will be safe. Thanks very much for joining us, and I'll see you all very soon, hopefully.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.